Hello, and welcome to the KCK Inspiring Moments with Kaylin radio show. I am your host, Kaylin John Louis, and I am so excited to be on the air with you all today. I just thank every single person who consistently listens every week. This is something that I enjoy doing. I love being able to inspire, motivate, and have interesting and just thought-provoking conversations that really talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on in the community and give people a shout out for just what's going on in our community. I am grateful for those who also are not just listening, but are sharing, who are telling other people to get excited, who consistently come and tune in every week. If you are somebody who's like that, go ahead and do me a favor and tag somebody you know. Tell them to download the Hallelujah 95.3 app. Have them listen to this show right now so that they are able to get the great amount of information that will be talked about today. And I really want people listening because this conversation today, I'm excited to share more about the cool things that are going on in Tallahassee. I know everybody's been recovering from the tornadoes, and there's been so much, just everybody is in a point right now where you're either getting ready for summer break if you're a student. As a parent, you're also transitioning with students who are coming back home, may not be home. It's a time where everybody's everywhere. It's very hot outside. If you've been in Tallahassee, I don't know what's going on with the heat, but it is very hot outside. And I don't know. I hope that it's not like this all summer. I mean, I know it consistently gets hot and we go through these different points and variations, but y'all stay hydrated. Y'all stay safe. As I always encourage you to do, make sure you're taking care of your physical health and your mental health. They both coincide and go together. Make sure that you are simply living your life to the fullest and being the best version of yourself. Before we dive into today's upcoming conversation, here is something that I want you to think about. Election season is on the way. And I know you might have seen a bunch of people talking about it on social media, or you hear different organizations who are going door to door and doing canvassing or just trying to mobilize voters. But y'all, it is so important. If you have not been paying attention to the news, paying attention to the candidates that are on the ballot, paying attention to what's going on in our legislation, there is so much that's going to be at stake at this next election. And I know everybody has varying parties, but honestly, ultimately, I just want you to be registered to vote and ready to vote. Because if you're just talking and you're not making action happen, then you're not a part of the change. You're not a part of the conversation of what people are doing. I need y'all out there. And that is really what today's show is going to be talking about. Election season is one of the most impactful times of the year. And as we prepare for it every 4 years, but especially this year, there's been recent legislation in Florida that has spotlighted the importance of voting. In times like these, staying informed and ensuring you are registered to vote is not just a civic duty, but a necessity for our present and for our future. It's more important than ever to be informed and ready to make your voice heard. Many organizations and groups are locally mobilizing and advocating for this issue right here in Tallahassee. I mean, I've heard of Black Voters Matter, and they're going all around. You have several organizations, but today I have the chance to spotlight one of those here in Tallahassee, the CK Human Rights Institute, whose recent event that they had has aimed to serve as a powerful reminder to every single person that attended and those who that will see the aftermath about our fight for civil rights and the importance of every vote. Pastor Derek Steele, head of the CK Steele Human Rights Institute, joins me today to discuss how this event and others like this are mobilizing our community. And we are going to be discussing your vote, your voice, a conversation exploring how you can get involved, the barriers we face, and the actions we must take to secure our democratic rights. But before I formally bring him in, I love to give all my guests an introduction. So Pastor Steele is a Tallahassee native and son of the late Reverend C.K. Steele Sr. He is the CEO slash president and founder of the Charles Kinsey Steele Senior Human Rights Institute. He is the pastor and founder of Faith Street Christian Center of Tallahassee, Florida. And Pastor Steele attended Tallahassee Community College, better known now as Tallahassee State College, and Florida A&M University, and then continued by attending the Tallahassee Bible Institute and Center of Biblical Studies. He later gained an advanced associate's degree in biblical studies and a Bachelor of Science in Theology from Covenant Bible College and a in seminary. He marched alongside his father in many civil rights protests as a kid. As a teenager, he helped form the Southern Christian Youth Leadership Conference, and he also serves on the board of the Promised Land Development Corporation, an organization of Bethel MB Church working in collaboration with Capital City Bank, designed to provide affordable housing in the local community. He's involved in so many other things, but most importantly, Jesus is the forefront of his life, and he desires to share him with everybody he encounters while advocating for equal opportunity and justice for all people. Pastor Steele is also married to the lovely Miss Tilly Hogan Steele and has one very brilliant and talented son, Mr. Christopher K. Steele, who both are from Tallahassee. And I am so excited to have Pastor Derek Steele as my special guest for today. Welcome to the show, Pastor Steele.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. I am honored to be a part of this program and very grateful and humbled that you have asked me to join you today.
Of course, I'm just so appreciative that we were able to speak beforehand. I was able to actually interview him for an article, but also just have a great conversation on what all Pastor Steele is doing in our community to really make a change, make an impact. And so speaking of impact, let's start with what's going on with your organization. Can you share more with the audience about who you are, what the CK Human Rights Institute does, and your role in the organization?
Absolutely. Well, for years, my family and I wanted to do something that would honor our father and create something that would be a living memorial unto his legacy. And but moreover, we wanted it to continue the work. And so that's what the CK Steele Human Rights Institute is really all about. And we have three major mandates that are a part of our mission. And the first one is we want to preserve that legacy, as I just mentioned, and we want to continue in the fight, collaborating, networking with other organizations to fight for civil and social justice. And then the second one is that we want to fight poverty. And so our aim in that is to help people who are seeking entrepreneurship. And so we're seeking to collaborate and work with organizations that can inspire and educate and in some way give aid to disenfranchised people who want to be entrepreneurs. Everybody doesn't have the same path. But we do know one thing about our history is that when we were a prominent and strong community, it was because we had mom and pop stores, we had Black businesses here and there, and they were run well, and it produced prosperity for many of them, and it also helped to prosper and care for the community. It's something that doesn't quite exist anymore in our country that I wish I could snapshot for my kids to see. And then thirdly, we want to inspire and encourage future leaders through community initiatives and inspirational endeavors. And that will include spiritual, intellectual, and motivational workshops and programs. We're still in the developmental process of putting these programs together, fully getting funded so that we can do these kinds of things and give people who are disenfranchised, the homeless, give them some life skills, those who are ex-offenders, to be able to promote healthy living for them. And so we kind of have a plate full, but we are on the path. And one thing that we've been doing is letting people know that we're here and we're vocal, and we're taking our platform and stepping up to the plate. And we don't want anyone to be left behind, misinformed, or just lethargic in this hour.
That's really good to hear those different mandates. I mean, I think about even the statement that you made that we're not even in the place as a community where you see as many Black businesses or mom and pop shops. Those are the things that I heard about from my grandmother and my mother.
Hmm.
And while there may be a few, if you think of Railroad Square, different things, I
Hmm.
really wish I had the opportunity to kind of see that unity. Because you're right, there's a lot of people who they pave their own way to success, and I'm very happy that you all are helping those that are impoverished, that are dealing with those different issues. Because homelessness is something that's very big to me. What I do with my nonprofit organization and just me as a person, I believe in helping people at all times and making sure that they're well cared for. So to know that there are other organizations, and for those listening, I do want you to know that this is a resource that's out there. This is an organization that's willing to help the community, and I love being able to highlight these type of organizations because we really all are working together to work to make our community better, but not just our community, but also the world around us a better place. You mentioned even civil rights. That's something that we're currently looking at possibly being in stake in legislation right now. There's so many different rights that we're having to deal with. And I mean, when you think of those different things, even hearing the legacy of your father, what really inspired you personally to really have the passion to allow people to know about their civil rights and to really advocate for those things and inspire the next generation of leaders?
Well, I feel like I kind of got knocked off the rails in my life. And because as a child, my dad worked closely with Martin Luther King Jr. He was his first vice president as they organized the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. As a matter of fact, before they made Dr. King president, they came to my dad. I'm trying to call the guy's name now, Rustin. But anyway, he talked to my dad about leading the organization, and my dad said, "Well, there's a young man in Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr. Ask him, go to him, and if he doesn't, I will." And so they all ended up organizing a group of ministers across the South and some from up north who would join together and establish the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And from my early days, watching my father being exposed to what was going on with the civil rights movement, our house was like a I tell people all the time it was like a Grand Central Station at times because so many people were coming in and out before and after I was born. Because the Tallahassee bus boycott happened in 1956. I wasn't born until 1961, but the struggle was continuing and just gaining momentum at that time. And and I loved hearing Dr. King speak. To me, every time you heard him, whether on the news or it was in a video, because we had a lot of stuff going on with him, and uh, and it was like to me a big old bell tolling, boom, boom, telling people wake up, rise up. Now is the time. It was just all this inspiration that would fill my spirit when he spoke. And my dad had that same fire when he spoke. And then the many ministers that were around them and working with them, they had that same fire when they spoke. When you had a mass meeting of the SCLC, you had a fiery church meeting that didn't just talk about pie in the sky, but talked about pie right here for you and I. And so, and it was relative, it was meaningful, it was inspiring, and knowing what we knew about society and the barriers that had been placed on black people. What It didn't take you long as a child to know that there were some places that they had blacks on, colored only and whites only and that kind of thing, and that's what they were fighting about. And so you knew inside of you that there's no one better than me, and so you wanted to stand and make a stand and make a statement and be a part of that. And so in my book I'm writing right now, one of the things I say in there is that Jesus is my greatest superhero. with Moses and and my dad. No, I said my father's Jesus, my greatest hero. My dad and Moses and Dr. King running a second, something along those lines. I think it's dad second and Dr. King and Moses third. Is what it is. Yeah, dad second, Moses and Dr. King running a hip to hip third. And so, with that being said, I always wanted to be a preacher, but life tries to pull you so many different ways.
Yes.
And for me, I kind of got caught up in the downward spiral, in the social life, got caught up in drugs and alcohol, and at some point found myself homeless, found myself incarcerated. I found myself on drugs and alcohol. And so that has been one of the platforms that God has given me over the years as I got clean. Matter of fact, today marks my 32nd year clean and sober. and
Wow.
and
Great.
and so when I graduated from the Dis Village Recovery Center, they made me their chaplain, and I did that for 16 years. And so that's been a great part of the kind of work I've been doing, as well as preaching and ministering in the church, doing outreach in the streets. But this part of it has always been on my heart, and I feel like I haven't given it my all like I know I'm called to do. And so now in this moment in time, after many years of my family discussing it and us talking about it, we finally come to the uh, plate to develop this organization.
That's so inspiring. I mean, talk about people paving the way for you, people and moving and just really igniting that fire. And to even hear your story, I mean, God really does take everybody through certain things so that you can be the testimony to somebody else. So that's just so awesome to hear. I mean, I really hearing that the CK Institute, it was almost pre-born. It was just it was put inside of you. And I love hearing that. That felt like that was the same way with me, even when I have any passion in my life. I just felt like God gave it to me and it just we ran with it. That was it. And I mean,
Right,
you all, like you said, y'all are just building, but y'all recently just had y'all second annual awards luncheon that was
right, right.
also
Hmm.
coinciding with the 68th anniversary of the Tallahassee bus boycott. And I mean, that's a huge deal to even celebrate that. Can you share with our listeners why the event was so significant to the Tallahassee community and what happened at the event? What were some of your highlights?
Well, that event is very important to us because it marks the beginning of Tallahassee standing up and beginning a fight that they won. We won. We won that battle, and we won it in about 7 months. Um, Whereas other cities, it took longer. I think it took over at least almost 2 years in Montgomery, I think. Um, but and so while the same Montgomery bus boycott was going on, our boycott was also going on. Um, and so it's important because history is so very important. We want to never forget, and we're no different than the Jews, who say we'll never forget. We're no different than the patriots, uh, who who on every Memorial Day and every anniversary of 9/11 say, lest we forget, we don't want to forget what we have come through, what God has brought us through, and what we need to learn from. Experiences like that are there for us to look back and learn. That's why we call it history, because it's really not our history, it's his story, how he brought us over, how he brought us through, how we made it. And I guarantee you, if you could talk to many of the people who were directly involved in leading those kinds of events or movements, they would tell you they had no idea exactly how things were going to work out. All they knew was their goals. You know, Dr. King had no idea the things that would happen, but he knew what his goals were. And even then, with the goals that they had, they did not at that time realize the goals that would begin to uh, uh, jump out and become focal for them as they continued forward, because they gained new goals and new directives in the spirit. And it excites me all the time, because one of the things that I want people to realize and never forget about the movement, the struggle itself, and the victories gained, is that, especially with the civil rights movement, it was a God move. It was a collaboration, a of solidarity between spiritual leaders who came together, and many multitudes of people of goodwill who came together to follow the lead that God was giving us. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Miss Jane Pittman, but anyway, she always looked at the little kids when they were born and say, "Is you the one? Is you the one?" Well, when Dr. King came along, she said, "He's the one." And it's true. He was the one man who could lead us with the charisma, with the intellect, with the passion to succeed in the many ways that they did in the civil rights movement, along with other many men like him who were, it said of Esther, "For such a time as this were you brought here to save your people." And so it is in, again, time and time again in history.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, there's so much you think about how everybody consistently says history repeats itself. And I truly believe that you have to learn history to be able to understand things that you can take with you, understand things that don't need to come forward. There's a lesson and also some things that you just don't want to advance in. And I think even the fact that you all are celebrated the anniversary of just all the progress that Tallahassee has made is so important right now, because we are at the point where we have the opportunity to make history and change history in a very specific way. I mean, between looking at what's going on with our legislation to seeing all the crazy amount of storms and different things that are just going on in this crazy time, this election can make or break what the future looks like. And everything is at stake. The title of this is Your Voice, Your Vote, Your Voice, because your vote is equated to your voice at this point. You may be able to protest online, you may be able to say all the things that you feel like are important. But when you cast your vote on that ballot and you choose what you're doing, you are speaking up, showing why it is important for us to vote. Why it is important for us to stand up for what we believe in, even from the roots you said of Dr. King. He instilled that into the Black community early on, way back when, that wasn't so far ago. And that's still something we have to continue carrying
Absolutely.
with us, even as your theme for the event was make every vote count and happen. We talk a lot
And
about making things happen, but we got to actually get out in the community and make sure people understand that it is so imperative right now that people register to vote.
and that's a great part of what we are involved in right now. Uh, we're looking at becoming a third party voter registration uh, entity, and I tell you, that event yesterday was out of sight. We had the mayor on board, the supervisor of elections on board to just share a little bit about voting and the challenges. Then we had our own board member, Reverend Alonzo Ford, who talked about how important uh, voting was, and how the church played a great part in making sure the vote happened. And then we had panelists of Attorney Mutaki Akbar, who's the president of the NAACP. We had Michael Dobson, the CEO of the Dream Foundation. We had Ted Ellis, the executive director of the FSU Civil Rights Institute. Keith Parker of National Education Empowerment Coalition was not able to be there. And then we also had Mr. Curtis Taylor of the executive director of the Tallahassee Urban League. And then we had Reverend Don Tolliver, the vice president of National Action Network, and he kind of moderated, but he also participated in his own way on the panel. And it was really great, some really good conversation. Uh, the talk about voting, the importance of it, the challenges of getting young people in to the ballot room, to be able to cast their ballot and understand how important it is to vote and to understand that their vote counts. And we talked about, listening to the young people so that they can listen to us, and how important that was. It was very, very powerful. We had Commissioner Diane Cox, who introduced our speaker, which was former Senator and Congressman Al Lawson, who was our speaker. And if you know Al, he was an awesome speaker. He had us all falling out laughing while at the same time he was making some great points on voting and the importance of voting, and how we've got to beat the bushes, as you said, get out and just get people to understand, and then to also let to also do all we can, as Curtis Taylor said, to reinvigorate the Souls to the Polls movement. And so they're trying to encourage everybody to get 20 people that to the polls. And so, but before that, we must encourage people to go ahead and get registered. And so we also had Supervisor of Elections set up a registration stand there at our event. And so, as I said, it was a very powerful, powerful event. I want to share a quote, though, from my father years ago that really says it all. He says, "We must push our fight on nonviolence and legal procedure, not only to the city halls, but to the governor's offices and to the White House if need be. To do this, we must be prepared with prayer, love, and faith in our hearts, the techniques of nonviolence in our heads, and the ballot in our hands." And so that, I think that kind of says it all. We've got to be three-dimensional.
Yes, we do. We got to get out what they say, get out the four walls, get outside, even from just a Christian standpoint. We, as the church community, but just communities in general, we have to work together to make sure everybody is able to be ready. Like you said, it does start with registration. Y'all, that event sound jam-packed, which means next year, if you weren't there, you got to get there so that you can get that information. But also, this is a very good thing that you all are doing in the community, because a lot of people either are not knowledgeable or don't know the places to go. And y'all, it's so easy to get registered. I mean, there's a few processes you have to go to, but there's the supervisor of elections office. We have a lot of different places in Tallahassee. You can even get registered online. So in my opinion, there's no excuse at all for why you cannot use your vote, why you cannot use your voice and exercise. I know we love protesting and we love making the big public acts, but I need you to make sure you get in that ballot room on voting
That's
day
right.
and you're
That's right.
casting your vote.
I want to say we also had three honorees, and one was a posthumous honoree, the Dr. Charles U. Smith, the noted sociologist, civil rights activist, and alumnus of Tuskegee and Fisk University. Uh, and he spent 50 years as a legendary professor at Florida A&M University. He was an awesome guy. Man, stood tall. I don't know who's the tallest, him or Al Lawson. Uh, but he fought relentlessly for civil rights, even in the face of threats from his boss at FAMU. But he continued working with the young people to make the movement successful. And if you don't know who Charles U. Smith is, I really encourage you to Google him, professor
Yeah.
from FAMU, and you will be blessed by his story.
Thank you for
And we
sharing.
also honored him and presented the award to his daughter, Shauna Smith. And then we also honored Al Lawson, the Living Legacies honorees, and also Attorney Mutaki Akbar.
And they're all deserving. Especially Attorney Akbar and Al Lawson. That's so
Yeah.
great to hear that y'all are honoring, y'all giving people their flowers now while
We
they're still
we realized we realized late that we didn't have our women in, so we're going to do another one with just all our women,
alive.
because women were essential, very pivotal. And one that I wanted to award, but I knew that her son would not be there, is Christine Knowles. And so next time we're definitely going to get her in. Yeah. Uh, Mother of attorney Harold Knowles.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information with our audience. I'm so happy that you were able to talk more about the event and even share about why it's important to vote. Y'all make sure y'all get out there. As Pastor Steele said, you got to get out, you got to get registered, and you got to get ready to vote. And as we close, I'm just so appreciative to have you mention that. Y'all get tuned in with the CK Human Rights Institute. It's a great organization Pastor Steele has, and make sure that if you need any more information, you can go to him. We'll give you the contact information on my page and you can gladly be a part. But again, thank you all so much for tuning into today's radio show. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Please make sure that you connect with me on all my social media platforms. You can go to www.kaylinscaringconnection.com to find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and just to get to know about more of why I do what I do. I'm so grateful to have the support of everybody. And as I wrap up, make sure that you always know you are loved, you are enough, and you matter. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next KCK Inspire Moments with Kaylin radio show. Until the next time, be blessed.